Holy crap, so this kind of came out of nowhere. Nintendo just dropped a trailer for what they're calling the final major update for Super Mario Maker 2. And I have to say, this kind of blows me away. This looks kind of amazing. But Derek, what's your raw impression so far?
I love all the individual elements they've added. There's a lot of really cool things that brings back kind of the weirdness that we've wanted. Like, yeah, we have these items back, but they're all given their own unique thing to make them a little bit different from how they worked before. And they have all these elements working together. So the weirdness is kind of back that we wanted. Like, we got a freaking not a bomb, but a Bullet Bill helmet that allows you to just zoom across the stage.
You can just
That's
fly.
pretty cool.
Yeah. No, this update's
there's
crazy.
Some really cool ideas.
There's a Mario 2 mushroom that basically gives you the gameplay style of Mario 2, only without, as if there were a style here, but, without the style. We have the Koopalings here. We have a world map creator. We have other random stuff.
That's something you've been wanting for ages.
I've been asking for that forever, since the original Super Mario Maker. We're finally getting it, and it looks incredible. So, this update kind of blows me away. What doesn't blow me away is that it took almost a year for us to get it. And it's a little bittersweet to see something so cool, but also knowing this is kind of the end. Like, this is the final major update. There's probably a few smaller additions coming up. But yeah, so it's kind of a little bit disappointing to know that this is the final major thing. And I kind of wished they had just doled us, parts of this out over time. Like, with the Koopalings could have been their own update. The Mario 2 mushroom could entirely be its own thing. But, at the same time, we're finally getting it all here, and it looks awesome, regardless of the time it's actually coming out at.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing here, is that if they had doled this out throughout the year, I think people would have been talking about Mario Maker way more. Have each individual update, like here's a suit update, here's a helmet update, here's a Koopaling update, and then end off with the World Maker update, because that's obviously the big thing that they're touting.
Right.
And it just feels like lost potential, because yeah, it's cool, but I guess here's the big question. Do you think a lot of people are going to go back to Mario Maker 2 to try this out for a long period of time? Is this going to revitalize the community?
Yeah, that's really the question. Like, is it too little, too late? And I hate saying that when this update, again, is awesome. It looks great, but I just wonder if, I think this is the best chance the game has at reinvigorating it. Because it just feels like people have forgotten about it. Yes, I know there are communities for it. I know there are people on Twitch playing it. But in terms of the broader gaming sphere, you don't hear much conversation about Mario Maker 2 these days. I'm one who put hundreds of hours into the original, and I forgot about Mario Maker 2 after a couple of weeks, There just wasn't much to pull me back. And I think had they doled the stuff out over time, like instead of all at once, I think it would maintain interest far better than they have up until now. But again, I don't want to rag on too much, because putting that aside, the individual content here does look amazing. The fact that you can now create world maps and link 40 different levels in a way that is far more elaborate than I ever pictured, than I ever wanted myself. You can create not just a world, 8 worlds, and you can allowing you to link up to 40 different levels in a single game. You can make your own Mario games now, which is nuts.
Yeah, they call it would be Super Andre World.
Right, which is awesome. I love that. I love that we finally have Mario 2 here, albeit not in the full style I wanted, but as a nifty little power-up, along with several others, like the frog suit, which I've wanted forever, the Super Acorn, and the power balloons back in a way that's far cooler than I ever imagined, where Mario's like farting around the screen.
Yeah, that looks something else.
It looks great.
I didn't really get much use out of the power balloon in the first place, so that's a lot better. That's an upgrade in my opinion.
It totally is. Yeah, the P-balloon kind of had limited applications before. Like, it was fun for the 2 or so levels it used in the original game, so that's a smart improvement here. And yeah, we've seen a lot of little tweaks along those lines, as you kind of touched on earlier. Then the fact that the Koopalings, which are 8 new boss characters across every style minus 3D world. That, again, is something I've wanted forever. Like, it's so much here. That's awesome, but...
And I don't know how close you looked, but they each have their own attack patterns too, and they seem to change up from game to game, where they kind of mimic the attack patterns they had in that game, just in the little bits I saw.
Right.
At least that's what it seemed like. And here's the crazy thing, because people are going to do this now. You can have all 7 of them in one game.
Oh, one stage, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, one stage. Like, there's no limit on them, unlike, Bowser or Bowser Jr. I'm assuming you can only have one of each, but
right.
Still, that still means you can have all 7 of them fighting you like that, and whew, that looks like a nightmare.
Yeah. If all this content were in the game when Mario Maker 2 launched, I'm pretty sure I would have reviewed it better than I did. It's understandable that it wasn't, but, the fact that it's finally here now, For free is still pretty great. And as you said, it's gonna be so fun to mix and match those Koopalings. This really opens the floodgates to the kind of like boss creations you can now work with, because before we only had Bowser and Bowser Jr. for the most part, and whatever modifications you can make to them, but we'd already seen that in the previous game, So the fact that we're finally getting new meaningful content is super exciting, and I love this. You can now make a proper Mario game with proper Mario boss fights throughout. Really, the only meaningful enemies we're missing or boss fights are like the Resnors from Mario World, and what else could you do with them anyway? So
yeah, exactly. I mean, I was kind of thinking about it. I was like, I almost wonder if you could put like one of those small cannons on top of one of the Koopa kids and fill it with bombs and have it chuck out, and then use the Super Mario World 2 Super Mario 2 power up, so you can pick up things and recreate the Mauser fight.
Right, well, speaking of which, one downside to this whole style, or the lack of a proper Mario 2 style, means no wart. I was holding out hope. Come on, we're just never gonna get warts.
We got Phanto.
We did get Phanto. That's true, and that looks great too. That's gonna lead to some terrifying level designs, I think. And one of my favorite new things I never expected, but it's something I've wanted to be able to do in the game, because I've tried to make levels along these lines, I just couldn't make it work, is the Goomba mask. I love that you can now make stealth an element of Mario, it seems, or at least it seems, where the enemies are unaware of your presence while you're wearing the mask.
Yeah, again, there's a lot of theming that people can do that'll really test that. Like the frog suit, you can make water levels more interesting and have alternate ideas there. The Super Acorn, you can kind of mess with that idea. The Boomerang, we already saw some clever ideas. There's some interesting, like, avoiding spikes platforming with the Bullet Bill, what do we call it? Box mash? I don't know what we call it. But yeah, you can go all this and have some really interesting platforming. Like, I think that's the cool potential, is that it really does open up the cleverness, and we kind of got a small taste of that thanks to the Link power-up, but I think this goes kind of beyond.
Oh, this goes way beyond the Link update.
Well, I mean, just in each individual element, I'd say.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. No, the Link update just kind of came and went, so this is a meaningful impact, and maybe that's why they held off on having everything at once. But I still think it would have been better to dole it out over time. Anyways, that is getting beside the point at the moment, which is this stuff looks awesome. This is an amazing update, and I really am excited to see what creations this will allow now. Like having those Mecha Koopas that can now shoot laser beams or hover around in night mode, as we saw, and combining that with things like the key, as you're saying, where you're gonna have to run away while Phantos chase you as you're trying to navigate this laser maze of Mecha Koopas, where maybe there are segments now where you can blend in with them using the Goomba mask. Like what I love is that as I said before, every addition to Mario Maker is exponential, because it interfaces with how it interfaces with everything else, can create almost unlimited possibilities. And the fact we're getting so many new toys to play with, like a giant new toy box. These things just don't interface with each other, but everything else within the game, which is kind of nuts. Like the amount of possibilities now is going to be through the roof. So I am so excited to see what people come up with. What I maybe create myself even. Because again, that Goomba mask really appeals to me. Like being able to create like a stealth mission in Bowser's Castle, or proper Metal Gear spin-offs, right? We've seen levels
Mario
of that
Gear
nature
Solid.
before. Exactly, yeah. This really does get me excited now, and I love that. Like this is what Mario Maker 2 is missing for me. After the initial week or two, it's like, yeah, this is brand new stuff. And it does seem like they really did bring in most of the biggest hits from the Mario games. Like now, most of the big stuff I wanted is there. Yeah, the question is, like, is it enough to sustain this community and sustain interest?
And that's the big question. While it's exciting, I think it's cool, I honestly don't see myself going back to it that much. I'm also not much of a creator, so it's an interesting thing where I maybe people will get a rally around it, especially with the times we're in.
I was going to say, the timing actually kind of works to its favor at this point.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot happening.
People have the time to potentially just sit around and make some new levels and make their own world.
That's kind of it, exactly. It kind of complements Animal Crossing in that way, where it just gives you a toy box, whereas you're creating your island in that game, you're now creating your own levels, and now actually your entire world's in Mario Maker 2. So the timing does kind of work out to its favor. There's not a whole lot happening in terms of the first party space, and this is, like I said, a giant toy box, and who doesn't like playing with toys every now and then, right?
Exactly.
So I am really excited to see like what results from this. I think I will go back and experiment at the very least, because this will allow all new creations.
I like what they're doing. I just don't know. Again, it kind of depends on if it actually gets the creator community into it. If the creator community gets into it, then I can see myself getting into it and doing more with that.
Yeah, I do think at the very least this will reinvigorate some interest in the game. I just don't know how sustained it'll be, but I think this definitely bought it at least a month, if not a few. It's really hard to say exactly. Like, it could be that I play around with this stuff. I'm like, all right, that was cool. I'm done. But I really do think this. I really do think this will have a much bigger impact than the Zelda update did. I mean, this is by far the biggest update Mario Maker has ever gotten. Either of the Mario Makers. This is the biggest update we've seen. Period. Unless I'm forgetting something, I don't think I am. Because each of these, as I said before, each of these could have been their own individual, or not each of them, but like, you could have grouped these into their own individual updates, like they kind of did in the previous game. And you'd have the Kooplings, you had the power-ups, you'd have the World Maker. So it's really exciting that they did kind of throw it all in at once. But again, I kind of also wish they just doled this out over a longer period of time. But I'm sounding like a stuck record at this point.
I actually want to talk about, like, yeah, there's a lot of really cool things, and this could really reinvigorate the community. But with it also being the final update, I think it's still missing out on a lot of potential.
Yeah.
We had the Link costume, but that's it. No other costumes that could have really played with it and given a lot of other options, especially in conjunction with this other updates. And then, of course, is going to be the big one that a lot of people are going to mention. I think you already did on Twitter, or somebody did, I saw, where, how about those extra
Yeah, that was me.
modes? Like, everybody was like, oh, there's an open space. Nothing came of it.
Well, yeah, not just an open space. It literally said extra styles, as in plural. So I don't know what happened to that. Like, I wonder if maybe the Mario 2 mushroom was meant to be something more elaborate originally, and that got pared back. I mean, either way, that does bum me out. Because I love the Mario 2 mushroom. I wish they'd gone farther with it. They didn't. And even if that wasn't in the original plans, like, why not any other styles, you know? But it's hard to get too disappointed, again, with how much content there is here. But it is just odd that this is the final update. Like, the game hasn't even been out a year. It is almost a year, but not even a full year, and they're already kind of like writing it off, you know? And it makes me wonder, like, did something happen? Like, I mean, besides...
I almost wonder if the sales weren't as big as they hoped.
Yeah, that's why I wonder. Like, did it not resonate with people as much as they had hoped? Like, it did sell well initially, but maybe it's fallen off? I don't know.
It could be one of those things where it just like, oh, there's really not much to this community this time around. It just doesn't have that same magic that the original did.
Which again isn't, you know, if that is the case, which I don't know if it is or isn't, that's partially on Nintendo for not supporting the game like they should have. Which, I mean, it seems like they've been working on this stuff for a while, clearly, but why not release it a little bit more piecemeal? Because people have been super psyched for the Kooplings or the World Maker by themselves, you know. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe this will totally reinvigorate the game. But no matter what, it is weird that this is the final update. You know, it kind of feels like when you get the final like Splatfest in Splatoon 2, it's like, yeah, the game will still be playable, but you know, it kind of sucks to know that there's nothing major coming out after this. I mean, they did leave the door open for minor updates, and maybe we'll get like individual power-ups or something. But yeah, it's very, I don't know. The whole handling of Mario Maker 2 has been so wild to me, and so different from what I expected and what I would have liked to have seen in terms of how they'd support the game.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, this didn't catch fire like we thought, and they kind of like went to the drawing board, but then it just never really went anywhere. I think it almost feels like it stalled a little bit, and it's like, okay, here's all the ideas we had, and it just didn't work out, so whatever. We just put it all out, and maybe it'll do really well since everybody's stuck at home.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So... yeah, well, do you have any other thoughts, Derek, about any of these individual elements or anything in a more macro sense, too?
In a more macro sense, it's crazy. It's coming out in 2 days.
Yeah,
less than
that's
2 days,
wild.
Really.
But yeah, I really am excited by these mechanics. Like, that Bullet Bill hat looks so freaking fun. It reminds me of a couple mechanics I wanted to do earlier that I wasn't able to, which I don't know if I'd fully be able to make work now, even with how the Bullet Bill fully works. But I have been able to get closer, such as replicating the aerial punch in my Super Meat Boy level, based on Super Meat Boy Forever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you could dash across the level, or even Celeste, which has that actual dash. Again, it doesn't seem to be quite the same because that Bullet Bill might be able to go,
It definitely can go a lot farther.
Right, exactly. Although I do wonder if it might explode at some point, which would be pretty similar to that mechanic. I don't fully know how that works. I'll have to take a look at it. But it does, again, it just opens up the door to what you can do. And we're going to see some crazy stages you're flying across. It just seems to be a lot of fun. So, although one thing this update did remind me of, again, and it's one of my major complaints with the original game, is how 3D World sticks out as its own weird thing, again, being the only extra style, where a lot of these things aren't supported in that, including the Koopalings, and I don't know, and some of those power-ups too, obviously, because they're, tied to their own games. It does seem like 3D World kind of gets a short end of the stick again, and that just continues to disappoint me, because it'd be so fun if you were able to mix and match those elements with the other styles, but you can't. It exists as its own sectioned off section of the game.
Yeah, and it's not as easy. You might have a few ideas and they don't work out, or you're trying out the new elements and that might work. I don't know. It just seems like it was weirdly segmented. Like, I get it on one hand, but I guess in retrospect, and even at the time, it was like they really should have tried to figure out some way to get that to work, because something was missing, some element. And hopefully this will add it in, but of course that's always going to be there, where you can't get all these elements across all of them. Granted, they'd have to make a lot of new assets in the 3D World engine, so I assume that's why it didn't happen. But I don't know how it's all going to go. But I am excited to see how much creativity will come out of this, if at all. I assume a couple people will come back to this. The general vibe I get on Twitter is people are excited, but also like, oh yeah, that was a thing.
Yeah, and this will straight up, I think, cause a big blip at first. I just don't know how sustained it's going to be. But at the very least, it will get people back playing this game, and it might even reinvigorate sales with it too. So maybe this is the jolt that the game needed. So, because it has me excited again, and that's something I haven't been for Mario Maker 2 in a while. I still didn't even bother with the Zelda update. I started creating a new level in the game a few months ago, but after the update came out, I didn't even bother playing with Link. I'm like, yeah, I get it. I don't really care. But yeah. This will get me back.
There's only so much you can do with Link and set up with the Mario stuff. Here, you have base ideas that can really go farther. I mean, they're just fun little extra bits, like the Mario 2 mushroom being able to throw snowballs, and the on-off trampoline, which is a neat idea. There's a lot of fun things that you can do to mess with the players, or create puzzles, or just add some new element that makes it much more interesting. And I think potentially the cohesiveness of the World Maker will really encourage people to stick with it and make a bunch of different levels, and maybe even try to make their own game where it just gradually ramps up that difficulty and see how it all goes. That's the hope, but yeah. The
World Maker actually does deserve just a little bit more attention, because that is just a crazy addition. Like, that is such a detailed editor. We can create custom paths, you can build bridges, you can link up any number of levels across a variety of worlds. It give you 8 different styles or 8 different world themes to work with. And it seems to work across I think all the Mario games, right? All the Mario styles, I believe.
Yes, I believe so. But I think they only showed World Maker in the Mario World style. So
that's
style,
true.
But you can transplant. But you can put any world wherever.
Correct. Any level, right?
And yeah, any level style.
And then you can create. It looks like split paths, alternate paths. That is freaking wild. That's so much more than I expected. The thing is, though, making one good stage is hard. Making even 8 good stages is really hard. Making 40 is insane. The only way you could really do that, unless you are just a Mario Maker savant, is by collaborating with others. And I don't think there's a way to do that.
Not really. Yeah, I can't really see that, unless, I guess they're just assuming that, hey, you made all those levels, just pop them in here, and just go from there. I think that is the general idea.
I think that is the idea. The fact that, the game's been out for a year, there are creators out there who have already created a fair amount, so they can probably use their existing levels. That means there won't be much, there's not going to be much synergy between them. Not that you necessarily need it, but that would be probably nice. But I do wish what would be cool is if I proposed this idea earlier, is if maps acted as a playlist, where you can pull in any kind of level from any creator you want and make your own world involving it, and then throw that out there and let people play through those. That way you can collaborate with others if you want to, or do something totally unofficial and just link anyone, bring together other people's levels if you want into your own world.
Yeah, like you said, like a playlist, which is a very interesting idea and would help fill out the levels where you just like all you're doing is creating the world, and the levels are just the cohesion, and you can decide like these are the easy ones, these are the hard ones, and or try to keep the theming in line and have that process. Like there's a lot of cool ideas, and I mean we even got bonus houses. They have like that little green mushroom house where they have the lineup game from Super Mario Brothers 3,
right.
where you can try to create a mushroom, flower, or star, and like there's a lot of fun details in here. I just hope that I mean you just have to kind of hope that the community rallies behind it.
Yep, I hope so, because there's a lot of cool potential here. I always wish it went just a little bit farther with this game, like with the world map specifically, but everything else blew me away here. I mean, even the world map blows me away. I just hope that they expand that, let you like work with other creators so you can create your own epic adventures together. I think that'd be really neat. But otherwise, A+ update. This looks fantastic. I wish it come out sooner, well sooner, or elements of it sooner. But as taking it as its own thing, fantastic. This looks so great, and I'm excited to try it out.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun to play with all the elements and see how it all comes together and see how crazy it can get.
Yeah, and I have a feeling it's going to get pretty crazy. Okay, well, I think we've pretty much covered the update as much as we can for now, especially with it coming out in practically no time at all. So, of course, stay tuned for our in-depth coverage of the update itself, which I can't wait to get my hands on, because, again, this looks great. I wish I were there from day one, but, I can't complain too much. It is a free update, and I'm hoping that they'll add a few more down the line. If not major updates, I hope they do add some more things down the line, including, being able to work together on your own world creations. But yeah, also, frog suit hype. That's great. Mario 2 mushroom hype. Yeah! This is cool stuff. Goomba mask hype. Hell yes.
Koopalings hype.
There you go. Kooplings, yes, exactly. Like I said, this could have been like 5 different discussions. I'd be happy about any of them. The fact it's one is kind of wild to me. Anyways, with that, everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the discussion, make sure to like and subscribe. Definitely click the subscribe button if you haven't already to stay up to date on all of our Mario Maker 2 content coming up, including what might be more levels coming from me. We'll see if it gets me back into the game. Alright, everyone, with that, we're out of here. Catch you later. Bye.